Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport, and today we are going to do our first one race wonder in a long time. In fact, it is the first since the 26th of May 2020 when we looked at Stefan Sarazan. But today, instead of looking at the comparatively modern 1999, we are going all the way back to the swinging 60s, to a rich entrepreneur with famous stepdads and a will to build and race his own Formula 1 cars. This is the story of Lance Reventlow and the Scarab Formula 1 car. So remember to subscribe, sit back, relax, and let's begin.
Welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport.
Lance Graf von Haugwitz-Hardenberg Reventlow was the son of a wealthy American heiress, Barbara Hutton, and the Danish Count Kurt Haugwitz-Hardenberg Reventlow, who was Barbara's second of 7 husbands. And Lance's stepdads would include famous actor Cary Grant, a couple of princes, and German tennis star Gottfried von Cram. Through his mother's marriage to Prince Igor Trubotsky, who won the Targa Floria in 1948, Lance Reventlow found an interest in motorsport. He even became friends with James Dean whilst racing in America, and was one of the last people to see Dean alive, having shared a coffee with him just half an hour before James Dean was killed in his Porsche 550 Spider. Lance Reventlow began his racing career in America in the mid-1950s, in Mercedes and Cooper cars, before buying a Maserati in Europe, which he promptly destroyed in a crash at Snetterton, totaling the car but luckily walking away unhurt. At this point, Lance Reventlow decided he wanted to manufacture a race car. I consider a day to be successful if I don't die, let alone seeking out to build a fully functional Formula 1 car for myself to race in the pinnacle of motorsport. Different worlds, I guess. Being American, he named the company he was starting the most American thing he could think of. Scarab. Alright, I'm not sure why they were called Scarab. I guess they kinda looked like one. They fitted Chevrolet engines to the front of the car, which was a mistake, but the Scarab did have success in the hands of hired driver Chuck Daigh, as well as Carroll Shelby. With this success, Lance Reventlow decided to enter Formula 1, and this was a much anticipated moment as they would be the first team from America to enter the European rounds of the championship. They moved operations to Britain and launched the Reventlow Automobiles Scarab F1 team, planning to race selected rounds in 1960, with Lance Reventlow and Chuck Daigh racing, as well as Ferrari driver Richie Ginther, who was entered for the French Grand Prix but never actually got to start the race. Chuck Daigh was entered into the Argentine Grand Prix but never actually arrived, with the Scarab debuting on track in Monaco, with both Chuck Daigh and Lance Reventlow himself entered to race. But a hydraulic issue affecting the brakes meant both drivers did not qualify for the race. Chuck Daigh was 11 seconds behind Sterling Moss's pole time, with Lance only another 1.5 seconds behind him. Things didn't look great for Scarab. A problem, as mentioned, was the fact they were front-engined. Front-engine cars were basically prehistoric or maybe Neolithic compared to the majority of rear-engine cars on the grid, not to mention all the other mechanical faults of the Scarab, the inexperienced drivers. The dodgy Desmodronic gearbox that was clever when Mercedes used it in 1955 but tended to pull itself apart in the Scarab. The team continued through 1960. They didn't race in the Dutch Grand Prix due to an issue of their entrance fees, but did arrive at Belgium at Spa, and they managed to qualify, although a lowly 16th for Lance Reventlow and 18th and last for Chuck Daigh. The race was short for Reventlow. In his only Grand Prix start, he'd only managed a single lap before his engine expired. This was his one race wonder moment. Chuck Daigh lasted a bit longer, getting to lap 16 before his engine let go. This was the last time Lance Reventlow entered a Formula 1 Grand Prix. The Scarab team would enter Chuck Daigh and Richie Ginther in the French Grand Prix, but neither made the start. Both had engine issues. The only race a Scarab finished was a 10th place for Chuck Daigh as the sole Scarab entry at the United States Grand Prix at Riverside, California. He was 5 laps behind race winner Sterling Moss, and that was the end of the Scarab team. They did design a rear-engined car for future Grand Prix racing, but Lance Reventlow essentially got bored of motor racing and killed the operation dead. Scarab only ever made 8 cars, and the rear-engine 2-seater sports car that was their final car did win races in 1963, but Lance Reventlow ended any association with car racing. He did also have one practice run in a Cooper at the British Grand Prix in 1960, but the actual race drive went to Chuck Daigh, who was quicker in practice, but didn't finish the race. So Lance Reventlow had to settle for one racing lap of Spa. Chuck Daigh himself only ever had 3 Formula 1 starts, and his best was the 10th place in the Scarab. Lance Reventlow spent the rest of his life doing what I presume rich people do, buying real estate and making more money. He sadly died in a plane crash while scouting out possible opportunities for a ski resort. Despite being an experienced pilot, he handed the controls to a younger flyer, and they crashed in a canyon, killing everyone on board. And that is the story of this American one-race wonder. I'll be back with more one-race wonders very soon, as well as a lot of interesting content coming out in the future. So remember to subscribe to the channel. It's honestly growing quicker than I could ever have imagined. Seems like yesterday I had just 20 subscribers. Now we are well past 100, moving towards 200. So thank you so much for your support. Leave a like, comment, share the video. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.
Moss overtook Brabham and soon started to pull away. Californian Chuck Daigh had manhandled the old Scarab into 7th. But for the Intercontinental formula, the Scarab would have stayed where it belonged, in a museum.